Hello and welcome back to the Literature Therapy. Yesterday we talked about how most people have already been practicing some version of bibliotherapy without realizing it. Today I want to talk about something that usually happens immediately afterwards. You read something, a chapter, an essay, a poem, a novel, and then you close the book. Most people think that's the end of the experience. I don't. In fact, I think some of the most important parts happen afterwards. A few years ago, if you'd asked me whether reading and writing belonged together, I probably would have said yes immediately. Literature degree, writer, bibliotherapist. It would have been a very predictable answer. What surprises me now is not that they belong together, but how naturally they seem to find each other. Readers become writers all the time. Not necessarily professional writers, not novelists, not people submitting manuscripts to publishers, just people with a notebook nearby. You finish a chapter and suddenly feel the need to write something down. Not because anyone asked you to, because your brain has apparently decided the conversation is not over. I think most readers know this feeling. You read a sentence and underline it, then you write it in a notebook. Then you write the 3 paragraphs about why it bothered you. Then somehow you end up thinking about your childhood. The route is rarely obvious. But it happens, and that's one of the reasons writing matters so much within bibliotherapy. Reading gives you material, writing helps discover our response to it. Those are not the same thing. A book can tell you something. Writing helps you figure out whether you believe it. A character can make a decision. Writing helps you understand why that decision annoys you so much. A novel can describe a feeling perfectly. Writing helps you realize you've been carrying the same feeling around for 6 months. Books give us language. Writing lets us test that language against our own lives. And honestly, I think that's where a lot of the value lives. Because recognizing something and understanding it are different processes. You can recognize yourself in a novel and still have absolutely no idea what to do with that recognition. Writing slows things down enough that you can look at it properly. Not in a dramatic way, not every journal entry needs to become a profound revelation. Most of mine certainly don't. A large percentage of journaling is honestly just me discovering that I'm thinking the same thing I was thinking last Tuesday. Occasionally with slightly better punctuation, but even that has value because writing creates evidence. Thoughts are slippery, feelings are slippery. You think you'll remember them, you usually don't. Then 6 months later, you find an old notebook and realize you've been asking the same question for half a year. Which is occasionally helpful, occasionally alarming, possibly both. The jury is still out. The one thing I notice a lot when people start journaling is that they assume they need something important to say. This is unfortunate because most useful journaling entries begin with something completely ordinary. I can't stop thinking about this character. I don't know why this chapter upset me. I keep reading the same page. That's enough. You're not writing criticism, you're not producing content, you're paying attention. And I think that's what connects reading and writing so closely. Both ask for attention. The internet asks us to react, reading asks us to observe, writing asks us to stay with the observation a little longer. That's a very different thing. One of the reasons I started writing 1 page a day this year was because I realized how much of my thinking was happening too quickly. Everything felt rushed, consume, respond, move on, another article, another video, another opinion. Reading slowed me down. Writing slowed me down even further. Together, they created something I had been missing for quite a while. Space. Space to think, space to notice patterns, space to realize what was actually going on beneath whatever story I happened to be telling myself that week. And I think that's one of the reasons bibliotherapy often includes both practices. Not because every reader must become a journaler, not because every book requires a written response, but because reading opens doors and writing lets us walk through them. Sometimes only a little, sometimes much further than we expected. The good news is that getting started is extremely uncomplicated. You do not need a special journal. You do not need color-coded systems. You do not need aesthetically pleasing handwriting. Thank goodness. You just need a page. Read something, then ask yourself a question. What stayed with me? What annoyed me? What surprised me? Why this passage and not something else? Write whatever comes back. If it's related to that, if it's unrelated, still write. That's enough. More than enough, actually. Because the goal isn't to produce beautiful writing. The goal is to understand your own experience a little better. And books are often surprisingly good places to begin that conversation. Anyway, tomorrow we'll talk about something readers ask me constantly. How do you actually choose books for different emotional states? Which sounds simple. It can be, or it cannot. We'll find out tomorrow.